You are sitting in the room with your baby. Everything is calm. Everything is quiet. And then you notice it. Your baby's eyes have drifted to the corner of the room. Not to you. Not to a toy. Not to the window or the light or anything you can identify. Just the corner. Empty. Still. And your baby is locked onto it with an intensity that feels almost unsettling. They are not blinking much. They are not moving. They are completely absorbed by something that, as far as you can tell, is absolutely nothing. And you feel it. That strange, quiet chill that every parent feels in that moment. What are they looking at? What do they see that I cannot see? Is something wrong with their eyes? Is something wrong with the room? Is my baby okay? These are questions that parents have been asking for as long as there have been babies and corners. And today, I am going to answer them completely, not with mystery, not with vague reassurances, but with the actual science of what is happening inside your baby's brain and eyes in that exact moment. Because the real answer is both more fascinating and more beautiful than most people expect. And by the end of this video, the next time your baby stares at that corner, you will not feel unsettled. You will feel something completely different. So stay with me, because this is one of those things that makes you see your baby in an entirely new way. To understand what is really happening when your baby stares at the corner of the room, you first need to understand something about how a newborn actually sees the world. Because here is something that surprises almost every parent when they hear it for the first time. Your baby is not seeing what you see, not even close. When a baby is born, their visual system is one of the least developed parts of their entire body. A newborn can only focus clearly on objects that are roughly 8 to 12 inches away from their face. Everything beyond that distance is blurry, indistinct, like a world seen through frosted glass. Colors are muted, fine details are invisible. The rich, complex, high-definition world that you experience every time you open your eyes is simply not available to your baby yet. What they can see, and what their developing visual system is actually drawn to, is contrast. Sharp, high-contrast edges where light meets shadow, where one surface meets another. And here is the key to everything. The corner of a room is one of the highest contrast visual features in any indoor environment. Where two walls meet, and where those walls meet the ceiling, you get a convergence of lines, angles, and shadow that creates exactly the kind of bold, clear, visually stimulating image that a young baby's eyes can actually resolve. Your baby is not staring at nothing. They are staring at one of the most visually interesting things in the room, at least from where they are standing developmentally. Their eyes are not broken. They are working exactly as they should. They are finding the sharpest, clearest image available to them and locking onto it so their brain can begin the extraordinary process of learning how to see. But there is more to this than just contrast, because the visual system does not develop in isolation. Every time your baby fixes their gaze on something, a corner, a shadow, a line on the ceiling, their brain is doing something remarkable. It is building, neurons are firing, synaptic connections are forming at a rate that will never be matched again in your child's entire lifetime. In the first months of life, a baby's brain produces synapses, the connections between brain cells, at a pace of roughly 1 million new connections per second. 1 million per second. And visual stimulation is one of the primary drivers of this process. When your baby stares at that corner, they are not zoning out. They are not drifting. They are engaged in some of the most intensive cognitive work they will ever do. Their brain is processing depth, angle, light, shadow, spatial relationships. It is learning how edges work, how surfaces meet, how light behaves differently on different planes. It is building the foundational visual architecture that will eventually allow your baby to recognize faces, track moving objects, reach accurately for things they want, and eventually navigate the entire visual world with confidence and precision. That corner is not empty. For your baby's brain, it is a classroom. Now here is where it gets even more interesting, because there is a second reason why corners and edges are so compelling to young babies, and it has nothing to do with contrast or brain development. It has to do with movement, or more specifically, the absence of it. Babies, especially in the first few months, are acutely sensitive to visual movement. Moving objects capture their attention almost involuntarily. But there is a flip side to this. When everything in a baby's visual field is moving, the faces, the hands, the mobile above the crib, the light shifting through a window, the brain can become overwhelmed. It is receiving too much input to process effectively. And when that happens, babies do something instinctive and extraordinarily intelligent. They look away. They find a stable, non-moving, visually clear point to rest their gaze. A corner, a ceiling line, a plane surface. And they use that fixed point to regulate themselves, to give their developing nervous system a moment to catch up with everything it has been processing. In other words, when your baby stares at the corner of the room, they may not just be looking at something interesting. They may be self-soothing. They may be doing for their brain what a deep breath does for yours, creating a moment of stillness inside a world that is moving very fast. And the fact that they can do this, that a baby just weeks old can identify and use a visual anchor to regulate their own nervous system, is one of the quietly extraordinary things about human development that most people never know. There is also a third explanation, and this one is specifically for babies between 2 and 4 months old, when the staring tends to become most intense and most frequent. At this stage, something new is happening in the visual cortex. Your baby is beginning to develop what researchers call preferential looking, the ability to not just react to visual stimuli, but to actually choose what to look at based on interest. Before this stage, a baby's gaze is largely reactive. Something moves, they look at it. Something is bright, they turn toward it. But around 2 to 4 months, the brain begins to develop a more sophisticated relationship with vision. Babies start to show preferences. They look longer at certain shapes. They are more drawn to certain patterns. And one of the patterns that consistently captures their attention at this age is what visual researchers call low spatial frequency patterns. Bold, simple, high-contrast arrangements of lines and angles. The corner of a room, with its clean intersecting lines and consistent shadow, is almost a perfect example of this kind of pattern. Your baby is not staring at the corner because something mysterious is there. They are staring at it because their brain is in a specific window of visual development where that kind of image is precisely what their cortex needs to grow. They are feeding their own brain, instinctively, without any instruction, just doing what their biology is telling them to do. So what should you do when you see your baby in one of these moments? The most important thing, and I want to be very clear about this, is to let it happen. As parents, our instinct is often to redirect, to bring their attention back to us, to shake a toy, to call their name, to interrupt whatever they are doing and pull them back into engagement. And most of the time, that instinct comes from a beautiful place. You want to connect. You want to interact. You do not want your baby to be somewhere else when you are right there. But when your baby is in one of these corner-staring moments, interrupting them is actually interrupting the work their brain is doing. It is a little like walking into the middle of a very important meeting and turning off the lights. Instead, try this. Sit with them. Watch what they are watching. Let the silence be comfortable. And if you want to gently participate in the moment, try narrating softly. See that corner? See how the shadows meet up there? You do not need to redirect their attention. You can simply join them in it. And over time, as your baby's visual system matures, as their focus range expands and their brain builds more complex processing capabilities, these corner-staring episodes will naturally become less frequent, not because something got fixed, but because your baby has graduated, because the corner has given them what they needed and their brain is ready to move on to the next thing. And here is what I really want you to take away from everything you have just heard. Every behavior your baby shows you, every stare, every sound, every strange moment that makes you wonder what on earth is going on inside that tiny mind, is meaningful. It is not random. It is not concerning. It is a window into one of the most extraordinary processes that exists in nature, a human brain building itself from almost nothing into something capable of thought, emotion, language, creativity, and love. Your baby is not staring at an empty corner. They are staring at the raw material of their own becoming, and you, simply by being there, simply by watching them with curiosity instead of worry, simply by letting them do the work they were born to do, you are part of that process in ways you may never fully see, but that will shape your child for the rest of their life. The corner is not empty, and neither is this moment. Pay attention to it. Because one day, sooner than feels possible, your baby will look right past that corner and straight at you. And they will smile like they have known you forever. Because they have.